Oh, hi Laura. Can't hear you.
Muted, sorry. I don't have anything major to contribute today, but I thought I'd stop by the meeting and see what's going on.
All right, it'll be brief. You're the only one here. These are not usually terribly well attended. I just closed the thing. Etherpad is down. Can you get to the Etherpad?
Let's see. I will check.
I'm getting a bad gateway. It's an Nginx failure.
Yeah, I'm
But
getting that too. I wonder if it's the same for other Etherpads.
in the
Yeah, I'm
leadership
getting
team,
it for all Etherpads.
that was we were just complaining about that in the leadership team meeting. Um, Okay, I'll be quick. I finished rewriting the Ceph idiom document. Well, there's two PRs that need to be merged, but that's out of my hands. It's just waiting on Sebastian to look at them. I'm going to rewrite the Ceph.io Discover page because the text on it is marketing style text. I decided that I wanted to get that done by the 1st of September. We'll see. I am now rewriting the Rados documentation, which is going to be tedious and will probably take until halfway through October. And the interesting, or maybe exciting thing for me anyway, is that the other day, Patrick Donnelly, who I think is on vacation or leave or something right now, anyway, he suggested that there be a Ceph at home initiative for people who are interested in Ceph but don't know um, how to use it or what to do. And that is exactly the sort of thing that I would like to write. So when he gets back from vacation, well, I've already sent an email to him and Josh. Uh, and I look forward to writing a short document explaining how to use, I don't know, Intel NUCs, probably, maybe Raspberry Pis for a really crummy Ceph cluster. I don't know. But something something like a Commodore 64 manual, which is the dream. And let's see, is there anything else? Oh, there's Nomad documentation. There's a PR for it, which I don't have the number of right now, but it's in the it'll be in the minutes. Um, this guy in France, Etienne, has sent in this Nomad documentation. When it is approved technically, then I will rewrite it so that it's in idiomatic English. And that's it. Everything's fine. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I've just been I feel like a lot has changed since the last documentation meeting, but uh let's see. I've done some updates. Are you getting some weird sounds from me or no?
No, you sound fine. I'm
Okay.
on my so it might be.
All right.
Is it?
Just making sure because no, it's fine. My sound has been off today, so I just want to make sure before I go forward. Um,
Oh, you're good.
but yeah. So basically, I put some updates for the perf counter documentation since I had been working on a new channel for performance and telemetry, and I just wrote it was a short paragraph that I wrote, but just to so for users and developers to sort of explain why it's important and what it can be used for, because really what was listed there was very technical. So what I wrote is just you know the performers can, if you want to look at that data, it can be used to help you diagnose problems with like memory management and latency issues, and it's also the metrics are sorted by daemon, so you can check out um, if you're having problems with a particular daemon, you can look at the metrics for that particular daemon. So they're just there to help you diagnose problems to just see kind of how your Ceph cluster is generally working and uh, how it's generally storing things. So just I felt like it was important to just put a little paragraph in there to explain why they're important, in case you're a user and you're just wondering, okay, so I'm reporting these perf counters, like, but why? You know. And then I'm also in the middle of on a separate note, I'm going through all of the tutorials that were posted to the Ceph YouTube channel about tautology, and it was suggested that I do that because there's like some Etherpad that exists about, um, like directions for tautology, but just as a newcomer, they thought it'd be a good idea for me to go through those videos in the Etherpad and suggest any like, if anything's confusing and probably any kind of documentation that's attached to it. So, because tautology is needed to understand the testing suite. So just making sure all of that's documented correctly. That's
Great.
it for me.
Yeah, the Teuthology documentation, the sepia
Oh, hold
documentation.
on. Wait, talk again. Okay, I was getting a phone call and then it like interrupted sound. I'm like, gosh, all these hurdles come up with sound, but anyway, I can hear you now.
The when you were talking, the 10-minute timer that I'd set for the like that timer that I'd set so that like when 10 minutes was up, I would be done with the meeting or I would be done giving my report for the meeting. It went off, so there were like 8 words that I couldn't hear from you because,
Oh, okay. Do
but
you
I
need me to
got it.
repeat anything?
Um, Working through the Teuthology documentation and making notes
Yeah.
of fairly clear. And like the Teuthology, sepia, and IRC stuff, um, I would like it if all that stuff was better. It's not a priority, but it's not as high a priority as making sure that the Ceph documentation is grammatically correct, like all the verbs
Yeah.
agree. But yeah, I'm sorry. That might have sounded like I was in some way denigrating the project. I am absolutely
Oh, no.
not. I'm very glad that somebody's doing it because like every time I look at the sepia documentation, I think, oh, we should fix this, we should fix that. And like you discovered, I think in was it Fedora 34 that there was a
Yeah.
that needed to be updated. Good, like that's
But yeah, also
and
looking through, I can see why, looking through existing documentation and checking for verb agreements and everything, that and see how important that is because sometimes like a single word can just change the entire meaning of something, or even just like even if it doesn't, I feel like if something has a spelling mistake or a grammatical error, like it reflects badly on anybody who reads the documentation and it's like, wow, this is like they put that on there. That's strange.
feels like to me uh, it in any sort of increased cognitive load on the reader, anytime that you have to read a sentence twice,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's in grammatically correct English, it's just weird. If there's, I don't know if you know what garden path sentences are, but if there's a garden path sentence, which is like the horse raced past the barn fell. That's
Okay.
horse that was raced past the barn fell.
Mm-hmm.
Just say the horse raced past the barn fell. It sounds like the verb is raced instead of fell. Um, Thoughtless sentences in English, especially the way that the syntax of the language is set up, we should be using a lot more relative clauses than we do in written language. Relative clauses are where like that or which is used. It renames usually the last noun named, and people who write carelessly won't do that. Anyway, when I read documentation that is like that, it just makes me feel like the people who put it together didn't know what they were doing, and then it makes me doubt.
Yeah.
Um, and there are a lot of places in especially in developer written documentation where there's a conversational, when I say a conversational tone, I don't mean an informal tone in writing. I mean somebody will say something like, as I always say, and that'll actually appear in the documentation. And you're like, well, I don't, like, we don't have a personal relationship. You're text on a page. This is not a, so there's, people will just use habits of speech and writing which aren't appropriate. And there's nothing like it's not a moral failing. Well, I mean it's not like the sort of thing I'm going to scold anybody for. It's just when I read documentation, if it reads like um, if it reads like it was written by a second language speaker, then it decreases my confidence in the thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
isn't actually isn't actually Docubetter related. By the way, I didn't name the meeting Docubetter. I would never have named it Docubetter. I would have patient meeting, but
I like it.
do you? Okay, well,
Yeah.
for you then, maybe it's I just I'm okay. It's not really a pun though.
Yeah, but I get it. It's just making the documentation better, right? So I guess it gets the meaning across.
It feels Russian to me. It feels like a Soviet Bolshevik name, Docubetter, like Comstat, Compromat. Yeah, so that's I guess that's going to be the meeting. I don't have anything like it's this is really just sort of like a steady as she goes. I try to do one pull request a day realistically, and right now I'm trying to kill off the last of the Ceph ADM pull requests so that I can focus on Rados. Um, how like I guess uh, we can't be too terribly candid because I think all this is being recorded. But how's the internship going?
It's going really well, and so today is my last week. I'll end on Thursday, but I'm returning in September, so I'm excited for that. I'll be returning as a full-time associate.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What title will be?
I'll just be back on the Ceph team. Basically what I'm doing now, but extended into a full time. So I'm excited for it, and so you'll see me around still. I'm
Very
still
good.
planning to come to the documentation meetings.
Yeah. Um, what time is it where you are right now? Is it about noon?
It's almost noon. It's 11:46.
Um, well, I'm glad to hear that you were hired. I mean, you're an obvious hire. If there's a
Yeah, well, I know that I don't know if you know, but the core team named Kifu Chai, he's leaving soon. So I know that they're gonna have a big hole in the team. Sorry, what did he
okay,
say? Yeah, Kifu's leaving.
know
Um,
that.
he's leaving. When did they announce it? He's leaving like within the next week or two, so pretty soon. So but he gave like a month like grace period so that there's have been some like knowledge transfer sessions and just where he's been answering questions that people have. But like we recently had the reason why I'm like going through the tautology training and everything. Kifu was really on top of doing like the QA tests for pull requests. He was like the main person doing it. So now that he's leaving, uh, everybody's kind of trying to uh, read up on or refamiliarize with that and know how to use tautology and everything. So, but yeah, I know that he was also working on the docs too, somewhat. I don't know exactly what he was doing for the docs, but I saw several pull requests of his that were updates to the docs. So, if you want to ask him anything, like, uh, you know,
Um, Last year, Keifu and I communicated a lot because I had to learn. There was no procedure for making a pull request written down anywhere, so
Hmm.
I had to figure it out. It was like if it were a minefield, then I would be intestines and nothing else. Just error, and then Keifu um, holding on to whatever small amount of patience he could possibly have in the face of my repeated failures. He's like, no, we don't do it this way. We do it this way, and it was. But
I had the same thing because I've used Git before for myself, but just, whatever like commit I would do was very like informal because it was just for myself. So then when I started the internship, I was so confused on the conventions and I had never done a pull request before, so I know what you are talking about there.
every software project has its own conventions and um, dialect. I want to say. I mean, this is also true of like I know in markup or markdown languages they're supposed to be standard, but after choosing one of these standard languages, markup or markdown languages, every project has a different dialect of it. They complain like, no, we put two space or two lines here, whatever, and it's
Hmm.
um, I when I was younger, it used to really irritate me, and now I just realize that's the nature of people. That's just how like it's and I think probably the I think GitHub being a part of the workflow makes things harder than it would be with just Git. And what I mean
Hmm.
is, um, because everything has to be kept in sync with the with the upstream fork, and because of the how do I say this? You can you can introduce these irregularities. Um, you can introduce irregularities in the web interface, and this is something that I learned last year when people would try to make a suggestion to be added to a pull request inside the web interface, but that doesn't
Hmm.
work for documentation. I mean, I don't know if it works for code. I haven't. I can't imagine that it would, because if you make the pull request there, it doesn't get. No, don't go to sleep. Not you. The it it gets out of sync um, with the local fork or with the origin
Hmm.
that origin with the local fork in your file system with the local checkout. And I I don't recall there being a good way um, to get that the information that was introduced by some third party as a potential pull request. Like it just doesn't work. Like the web interface doesn't
Hmm.
work with base. And I suspect it might if everything is set up just so, and also if you have like a small team, but it's not great. Anyway, with GitHub in the middle, it means that you have to keep checking out main or master, depending on what
Yeah.
year it is, fetching and then resetting and then pushing to your origin in order to make sure that you have recent changes before you make a change. Which, of course, like I'm not complaining about that. I mean, yes, of course, you want to have the most up to date version, but without like having the whole idea of Git is that it was decentralized, and GitHub breaks it. It forces there to be a central location. So um, I'm not necessarily saying that GitHub is bad or anything. It's just it's a
Hmm.
centralized, whereas Git was deliberately decentralized. Like famously, Toy Story 2 is entirely stored in Git, and all of like all of Pixar's uh, they lost Toy Story 2, every bit of it.
That's right,
And
yeah.
it, the one
Yeah,
lady
I
was on
remember
maternity.
that.
You had like an old version of it at home. That's the actual that's a decentralized case. Um, and I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that GitHub is bad, and I'm not saying that Git is excellent. I'm just saying that these are two different models, and we're all sort of forced to use a tool Git, which was not meant to be centralized in the way that GitHub is. And just like there are dialects of these markup or markdown languages, every different project has different ways that they want things, like different branches that they want targeted, different customs, different like Keifu insists upon imperative mood in the titles,
Hmm.
and I've seen mention in many other things. Like I did some transcription for the Smithsonian, and I did some. Neil Stevenson had William Tyndall's NASA memos um, typed up, and you often do in those you use the imperative mood in the title, but it feels so weird to me. So I anyway.
Yeah, I
Um,
think when I had just done something for like one of the first times I, did it either request, I named it something weird. Like I used the file path like correctly, but then I didn't use the imperative, and then Kifu called me out on it, so I know exactly what you mean. And I just didn't realize that was even a thing. But then when he pointed it out, I was like, oh, okay.
I was actually I'll say this in the meeting for posterity. Um, I had a huge stack of changes that I wanted to make to the documentation last year, and this was about halfway through the year, and I had probably spent about 8 days failing to get things put through, and I was so disheartened that trying to make another pull request was a serious act of will. It was like when it felt like skipping a lot of class and then shamefacedly showing up to class. It was very difficult to. Yeah. Um, maybe we could, yeah. Maybe we could make the problem is that the this when the problem is solved, like now I know how to do it. Now probably you know how to do it. Oh, Jesus Christ, Apple. Sorry, I just swore in the meeting.
It's okay, I can
I
still hear you.
battery is at 20%. I understand that. But now that I know how to do it, I don't need the documentation. Now that you know how to do it, and moreover, I never make the same mistakes that I would make. And also, like, we need new blood constantly. We need new people coming in to make mistakes to tell us what we need to tell them
Yeah.
not to. And
Well,
so,
yeah,
like,
I just know that if I see any other if any other interns or new associates join the Ceph team, and if they say like, "Oh, this workflow's really con-" I was just nobody made me feel this way, but I was like almost afraid to ask questions about that because it seemed like everybody knew how to do it, and so that I should,
like I
realize that
couldn't
I
ask.
should ask those questions.
It was very embarrassing. But then I thought, like, well, like if I can't figure this out, then the whole point is to write documentation so that it is clear. So I'm like, even if
Right.
it that it was, I underwent the same thing. Uh, so yeah, you are. We'll close on this. Red Hat hired you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
I'm excited to start, but then yeah, I just I was just and all the people that I met here, on the core team, and then you and other people that I've met, everybody's just so nice and so helpful. And I just was, I would have been fine if I had to move on to someplace else, but I really did bug Josh about getting to work here because I was like, I would really like to continue my work and also just be on this team. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Glad that you got hired. And I'm glad that you got Ceph. It is a good team. I used to work at Red Hat myself, uh, 10 years
Hmm.
ago. I hired, and I stayed until 2018. It was April of 18. Um, but uh, Ceph is really good. Like Ceph is well, we'll have to talk about this in another meeting, I guess. It's a
Yeah.
good team that you hired. You're like I said, you're an obvious hire. Like when you're in a group of people doing interviews, uh, like you could if you came in to interview, you'd be like, you'd ask a few questions, like, okay, yeah, go ahead and hire. Uh, it, Sometimes, like I remember we interviewed one guy, um, and he was an old engineer who had written. When I say an old engineer, I mean like I'm old, but he was like in his late 60s, and he had written um, OCR software that read license plates at airports and then sent tickets to people.
Okay.
And he was applying for a documentation job, and I don't think he said he gave like 5 word answers to things, and none of them
Oh yeah.
were. And that was an obvious like no, no, we can't hire this guy.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, but it's so hard to tell sometimes whether it's due to somebody just being nervous or if it's like how they are. But yeah, if it's just like I don't know, it's hard if I were hiring someone, I would try to like account for if they're just nervous or something, but like also I feel like you can kind of tell if just by somebody's personality if they're not a good fit generally, even with nerves taken into account.
Um, I guess this is possibly terrible, but in my experience, when we would do hiring, um, basically you're just seeing if you can stand them. Like it's like somebody who doesn't know how to make a pull request. If they suck, then it doesn't matter. I would rather deal with somebody who doesn't yet know how to make a pull request, but seems like they would be good to go to lunch with, than somebody who can make a pull request but makes me uncomfortable. Like I don't know.
That's so true. Yeah. Yeah, it just anybody that's willing to learn and to if they don't know something to if they're willing to fill in that gap and but then they're also a likable person. I can see, those are things to look for.
So, did you have to go through an interview process, or did they just hire you? Was it
No,
just
I
Josh?
didn't. Yeah, I just went through Josh. Yeah. I kind of viewed this whole internship as sort of like a long interview process anyway, so um, you know, that's I feel like that's sort of a lot of internships. Just you can try out a team, and if you like it and they like you, that's your really long interview there to sort of like prove what you can do.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. It sounds like you've actually been hired by Ink Tank. Really, I mean, I know it's Red Hat, but Ink Tank is what before Ceph was Ceph. It was the old organization that Sage created. And when I talk to Neha and Josh, I think of them as Ink Tank employees, really more than Red Hat or
Okay,
IBM.
gotcha.
Like the and the Ceph team does things in a much less corporate way than other projects that are underneath the IBM Red Hat umbrella. So
Hmm.
it's um, I've been working with them since 2019, since just before the pandemic, and I genuinely like them. Like I I meet with Josh every week. I meet with Josh and Neha every other week, and um, like honestly, I I'm going to say this in a meeting that is being recorded. I don't think anybody sucks. That's
That's good.
funny, but no, everybody's pretty good. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I've met nothing but really genuinely really nice people. So it's really like it's rare that you find that, at a place. Sometimes companies just have people that you just really can't mesh with.
well, it's especially in software.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, it is 3:03 in the morning right now. Um,
Right, you should go to bed. Oh, I was gonna say before the meeting ends, since you didn't know about Kifu leaving, I created a card, an e-card to send to him. Welcome
well,
to sign. I'll just ping you the link to it.
yeah, if you'll
So I've
email
been
it to
trying
me.
to reach his. Yeah, yeah, I can email. I've been as many people as possible, but I feel like there are still people that I haven't reached. So if you know of anybody that would also want to sign it, just send them the link to it that I'll send you an email.
All right, Josh knows about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, the Rados team knows and everybody, and I'm gonna send it on Friday. So
Then
Friday.
I will either in a minute or whenever you send
Yeah,
it
just
or tomorrow.
whenever. Yeah, no urge, to do it like instantly, but I'll just send you the link so you have it.
All right. Um, well, congratulations. I am very got hired. It's lucky. By it's lucky, I mean the team is lucky to have you, and it's good that there is a position available for you. Otherwise, like some other organization would have gotten you and would have been lucky. like it's a
That's
it,
good. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm want to keep checking in on documentation too and seeing what I can do there. So you'll see me around.
okay. If you run into anything egregious, let me know. I'm working my way, as I said, and I know that I keep talking, and I said that I'd stop talking, and meeting would be over. I'm working my way through the Rados documentation. I anticipate that it will probably take until mid-October to get through all of that, or at least to
Okay.
make one. It may be into November by the time every one of the pull requests is accepted. I don't know. Um, and unfortunately, the way that this works is like by the time I get to the end of one of these guides, I now have a good idea of what the beginning of the guide should have said in the first place, and I want to go back and
Yeah.
next thing. Um, okay, the end. I think, right? Do you have anything else?
Yeah. No, that's all for me.
Right. Congrats
Really,
again.
thanks. Have a good night. Go to sleep.
Right, that if I can find the off button
All
or
right.
whatever. Bye, Laura.
Bye.
Oh.